What's up, everybody? Justin here. It has been almost a week since our last video. I had a lot going on. Last Wednesday, one of my bands played a show. We played with Spectral Voice and Primitive Man. Both bands were fucking insane. They were awesome. Killer turnout on a Wednesday night for the show, and had a great time. And then I went out of town. I drove to Cleveland, Ohio for the weekend and went to the Cinema Wasteland convention. For those of you who don't know, that's a horror and kind of obscure cinema convention that they have in Cleveland every 6 months. It happens in April and October every year, and it's just a gathering of underground horror and exploitation and weird cinema fans. It was my first time going, so I'm going to have a new video soon with a huge update of new shit that I've gotten, both music and movie-wise. I'm just going to combine it into one. And then another little house cleaning thing. I got a lot of killer feedback on the 5-minute favorites video, so I've got more of those coming. But until then, let's jump back into the CD collection. We're almost wrapping up the C's, so I got a short stack. Let's talk about them. First up, I have a sealed CD. This is Collapsar with Beyond the Event Horizon. I got this from Malignant Records a few years ago. I think I mentioned it several videos ago. I bought a bunch of stuff from Malignant one time, and he sent me a message and said, "Hey, I'm a fan of your bands. Let me send you some more stuff." So Jason from Malignant Records sent me a huge box of his titles, and this is one of them that I haven't made it to yet. Knowing that it's on Malignant, it is probably power electronics or ambient or drone of some sort, but I'll have to open it up and check it out. It looks very spacey. Every song title references space, so that is right up my alley. So Collapsar, I'll check that out ASAP. Next, we have one CD from Cold Cave. This is completely different. It's not metal. This is Full Cold Moon. So this is not an album. This is a collection. It's a digipack. All the lyrics there in the middle. This is a collection of 7 inches that the band did throughout 2014, 15, somewhere in there. And then once they did, it was 4, 5, 7 inches. They put them together on CD and LP. Now, Cold Cave, if you don't know, Cold Cave is kind of a dark electronica band. It's mainly one guy. His name is Wes. He was in the hardcore bands Give Up the Ghost and American Nightmare, who I've never listened to. I know him strictly from Cold Cave. At one time, Dominic Furnow from Prurient played keyboards and synth in this band when they played live. But Cold Cave is very dark. It's got techno beats to it. It's dancey, but all of it's very, very somber sounding. It's very, very dark. It's not dancey or upbeat at all. But the first song on this, A Little Death to Laugh, is just the perfect example of what this band sounds like. And that is one of the greatest, just kind of dark wave songs I've ever heard in my life. I don't know shit about this kind of music, so I'm probably using the wrong descriptors and wrong genre titles, but I think Cold Cave is fucking amazing. I've missed them every time they've toured Atlanta. Maybe sometime I'll see them, but I'm a big fan. Speaking, I have all these 7 inches as well. I have several of his records, and all of the 7 inches that comprise this CD I also have. I got kind of obsessed with Cold Cave when I first got into them. So next we have 3 CDs from Cold Northern Vengeance. So Cold Northern Vengeance is a black metal band from New England, and I had known about Cold Northern Vengeance for years and years and years, and I have one of their tapes in my tape collection. But about 10 years ago, my band played a show with them in Nashville, and me and a couple guys in the band hit it off, and we're still friends today. Shout out to Paul and Keith. But I've always kept up with them. This CD is called Trial by Ice 2002 to 2010. I can't remember where I got this. And it may have been at that show. but it looks like it's demo tracks. But I don't know if I've listened to this in forever. And then this one is Maelstrom. This was their most recent album that came out a couple years ago. They have a brand new one that's about to drop. But this album, I did all of the layout for. All the layout and design. It came out on Moribund Records. So having kept up with Paul, is the main guy in the band, we've stayed friends, and he asked me to do all the layout for him. So I did it all. I don't know who did the art. Her name's in here somewhere, but the art's really rad, and it lended well to doing this kind of shiny Pantone gold through everything. And this is a really good record. I'll talk about what Cold Northern Vengeance sounds like in just a second. Maelstrom is great, but this record, Domination and Servitude. Domination and Servitude is the most underrated American black metal album there is. Paul gave this to me when we played together, so this is a good 10 years old. Came out on Bindrune. What's up, Marty? Cold Northern Vengeance doesn't sound like anybody. They're not your standard black metal band. They have some kind of folk or Viking elements. They have some kind of traditional, like, almost Irish sounding elements. They're like a drinking man's black metal band. I don't know how to describe it. Lots of Aleister Crowley references, and that comes through in the way the music sounds a lot. There's harsh vocals, there's clean vocals. There's some stuff that really hits you out of left field on this record, but I cannot tell you how many hours I have spent listening to Domination and Servitude, and it's just absolutely untouchable. When you need something that's not Dark Throne, it's not Judas Iscariot, it's not Marduk, it's not all of those standard black metal bands that fall into a certain niche, this really, really, really scratches an itch. The way Agalloch doesn't sound like any other band. Not that they sound like this at all, but the way that Agalloch sounds like Agalloch, Cold Northern Vengeance sounds like Cold Northern Vengeance and no one else. And in this record, it's just fucking untouchable. So, let's see here. I gotta stack these back the right way so they don't go back on the shelf out of order, even though half of everything's fucking out of order anyway. Okay, next up, brutal death metal. This is Colonize the Rotting. This is called Composting the Masticated. This is your standard, just brutal death metal. The CD's not in here. It's probably in another CD case somewhere. That shit annoys the piss out of me when I do that. This came out on Severed Records, which if you know Severed, that's what they released, brutal death metal. I've listened to this a couple times. I remember it being very standard by the numbers. Technical brutal death metal. You know, the song titles here: Putrid Distension, Regurgitated Carrion, Genesis of Putrescence. That all sounds fine and dandy. But if this is the band I'm thinking about, let's see here. Every band member thanks Jesus. Above all, I thank God. Let's see here. To all of my friends, my family, our fans, and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me the chance to make it to heaven. And then Andy thanks God. So, that's a big no for me. I don't understand when you play this kind of music, you know, about gore and killing people and rotten bodies, and but then you thank Jesus. I think your priorities are kind of fucked up. But man, I can't get over that. It's so fucking left field for me. But unless they're doing it as a joke, but if it's a joke, I don't get it. So it's gonna be a big pass for me, dog. Now, on the opposite end of that spectrum, Condemned, Desecrate the Vile. This record is fucking untouchable. It comes in one of those slipcase thingies. Fucking killer artwork. This came out on Lacerated Enemy. A couple videos ago, I talked about Cephalotripsy. Cephalotripsy singer at the time was Angel Ochoa. Angel Ochoa was the singer on this. And his vocals are the absolute sickest there are in brutal death metal. But this record is just extremely brutal. Tons of riffs, tons of breakdowns. It's kind of slammy, kind of technical. Kind of toes the line between both. But it's one of those kind of watershed records where I think this record happened and brutal death metal evolved a little bit. Same can be said for Guttural Secrete's first album. Same can be said for Malignancy. But Desecrate the Vile was where the tide kind of changed, at least for me as a listener. I heard this and I said, hey, it's going to be hard to top that. But this record fucking rules. The ones after it, not so much. Next, we have one CD from Conqueror, which is all you need. It's everything Conqueror ever did. This is War Cult Supremacy. This is a 2-disc set. Came out on Nuclear War Now. Really, really nice presentation. This booklet's printed on like a textured paper. It's really nice. Of course, Conqueror is a Canadian black metal band, war metal band. Members went on to do Revenge. They did Crematory. But now, I guess they're just doing Revenge now. But this is just violent, no holds barred, no relent, just devastating, dominating war metal. Untouchable. If you like that kind of shit and you don't listen to Conqueror, you fucked up. So then, to round it out, this round, I have 5 CDs by Converge. Converge are kind of polarizing. I know a lot of guys into black and death metal that don't think they should be mentioned with black and death metal. And then you've got people who seem to really appreciate them. I got into Converge a really, really, really long time ago, 20 years probably. And I kind of, so their first 2, they have an early record called Caring and Killing, I think. I don't have it. I've never even heard it. But When Forever Comes Crashing, which I have this old version on Equal Vision Records that says promotional use only. My buddy Dan gave that to me. He had a radio show when he was in college, when I was in high school in the late 90s. And he gave me this promo copy with a bunch of other promo copies. And then I have a re-release version here with completely different artwork, slip sleeve, some bonus tracks, expanded layout, all that. Came out on Equal Vision as well. And then we've got Petitioning the Empty Sky. And I always get these confused. I can't remember if When Forever Comes Crashing came first or if Petitioning the Empty Sky came first. I don't remember. But these 2 records, regardless, these are Converge to me. This is what Converge sounds like. After these 2, they did Jane Doe in 2001. When this came out, just like I was talking about with Condemned about that record turning the tide, that's what this record did for Converge and bands that sound like Converge. It's what it did for the entire hardcore scene. This record was a stepping stone. They said, hey, here's this up on this pillar. You guys try to beat it. And bands never have. But personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Jane Doe. I like these. And Jane Doe starts really strong and then just falls off for me. It puts me to sleep. It just loses me somewhere in the interim. And it's hard for me to finish. This is the first pressing of it. I bought it when it came out. It's in a yellow jewel case. It has a huge, thick booklet. I can't even pull the fucking thing out of here. But it's put together really nice. And it is a pinnacle, you know, at now, almost 20 years later, classic fucking cornerstone record. And I respect it for that. These 2 records, though, these are Converge. Converge is a very noisy, chaotic, hardcore band. People call it mathcore, chaos core, whatever, you know, metalcore. But no one sounds like Converge. No one sings like Jacob Bannon. No one plays guitar like Kurt Ballou. The way Jacob Bannon sings, you know, he has this really shrill, high-pitched scream, and also these really atonal, weird, out-of-tune, clean vocals that are very polarizing the first time you hear them, but they work so well. But like the song "The Saddest Day," it starts just so fucking in your face. These records are just fucking great. And this song, "Antithesis," has one of my favorite lyrics of all time. He says, "Hallowed be art who art in heaven, but I refuse to call that fucker by name." That's just poetry to me. Anyway, I love these first two Converge albums a lot. Then I also have the split with a Dwarf of Nosebleed that is in a jewel case that's falling apart, obviously. It's called the Poacher Diaries. This came out, 99. So this predated Jane Doe. I remember being stoked like, oh, the new Converge release is coming out. We got to get it. Came out on Relapse. This was my introduction to Dwarf of Nosebleed. It's about all I know about a Dwarf of Nosebleed. I really like their songs on this, though. There's lots of samples on it. There's a sample from The Cube on here. The Cube is awesome. The movie The Cube. This release, it's a full-length split, so there's a bunch of songs by both bands. But there's a Converge song on here called Locust Rain. And that's my favorite Converge song. So go check it out. I'll put a link in the description below. Yeah, there's 15 songs on this thing. So it's a full-length release. Killer artwork. The Converge songs are a little thicker, a little more dangerous sounding on this. A little more metal sounding. And a big precursor for what Jane Doe became. But anyway, that's kind of where it ends with me with Converge. I checked out records post Jane Doe. They never really did much for me. I know some people that they swear by mid-era Converge, like You Fail Me and a couple of other records in there. They don't do it for me. And then the newest Converge record that came out this year or late last year, I can't get through a couple of songs of it, man. It's not good. It's not Converge to me. Sounds like Converge, but it's like a watered down version of Converge. I just can't get into it. But I'll stick with those early records. I really, really like them. So anyway, that's it for now. You can tell my voice is fucked up. I've been sick. We'll keep going. We got more 5-minute favorites coming up. I have a huge new shit update coming up. So let's talk about these and talk about what we're listening to now in the comments below. And I'll talk to everybody soon.